Push, jump, or fell. Shot in the back of the head, dragging yourself away. My God, that's awful.
Vehicle's registered to Maggie Moore.
Did you say Maggie Moore?
2 dead Maggie Moores 1 week apart. Yeah, that's weird.
It's a very unique story based on an actual circumstance of 2 women in the same town in the same week with the same name who were found dead and no one ever figured it out. We took that occurrence and created a story in a world in a different place. Micah Stock plays Jay, who's kind of in over his head in a situation, and he makes some bad choices, and he's kind of the motor for the movie. John Hamm plays this guy as a police chief who's recently widowed. Tina Fey plays someone who's just come out of a divorce and is lonely and looking for connections, lives next door to Micah Stock's to Jay, who's up to all this kind of weird stuff.
Is Maggie 1 a mistake for Maggie 2, or is Maggie 2 to cover for Maggie 1?
Somebody out there is really good at what they're doing.
Ducky Ready, I guess, is, he's sort of second in command to John Hamm's standards. And so he's subordinate, which is, a part that I find myself playing quite a lot. And I quite like playing that kind of supporting role. But I think the difference here compared to something like Ted Lasso or even Intelligence is that he's quite front foot, is Reddy, and in fact he possibly has even more emotional intelligence despite his relative youth compared to Sanders, and I guess slightly less experienced than Sanders as a result. He's surprisingly emotionally intelligent when it comes to sort of giving relationship advice and he's very sort of confident in himself, and he does, he sometimes oversteps the mark and makes slightly inappropriate jokes, but nothing too bad. And actually, he's really got Sanders back, and they're actually a really good duo. They kind of really complement each other in that regard.
The script was pretty much the script we shot. I mean, we made some adjustments, cut out some stuff, I guess, made it a little. We tailored it a little bit, but not that much. He's just such a good writer. The tone was specific, but he writes very specific characters. That's what appealed to me. The sophistication of it, of the situation, the characters, but also the vulnerability of everybody in it, just made it kind of added a human level to it that I'd never seen. Like I'd never seen a murder mystery, if you will, with that kind of human feeling laid over the top of it.
It's quite a specific tone. It's, I guess, a kind of combination of genres. I've been describing it as sort of tonally a bit like Fargo, but sort of set in the desert. So it's sort of got, obviously, there's a real kind of thrilling aspect to it. But I don't know, I think a lot of the characters in it, in this sort of small sort of desert town, are quite kooky, quite sort of wacky and weird. And so it's just such an odd kind of combination. I remember chatting to John Slattery about it and him just saying it's just such an oddball mix of people and faces, a real kind of smorgasbord. And so I sort of think it's its own thing in lots of ways. But yeah, I guess a sort of comedy thriller in a sort of, but in sort of set in this sort of dusty sort of desert town where not much kind of goes on. But yeah, there's this, obviously these horrible kind of killings, which are, unique in a way in that obviously the victims have got the same name and they're just trying to solve it and trying to piece together sort of what has happened. And I guess through all that, we meet all these weird and wonderful characters.
Well, that ties it all up in a nice little bow, doesn't it?
Give me some backup now. Wash your car.
Wash your ass.
How are we doing?
You seem really worked up over this.
Hey.
But wait, there's more.
Maggie Moore.
Maggie Moore.